What is up? My name is Hannah. Welcome to the show. I am your host, Hannah. And this next episode, I am super excited because I always am excited, but this show in particular is quite insane. You're going to be so inspired by my good friend, Brett. So she is a woman who has been to the literal bottom of the pit and has been redeemed in so many different ways. So I'm so excited to be sharing her story of alcoholism, homelessness, family issues, all of it combined into a woman who is so inspiring today. So as always, be part of the conversation, be loved, and be inspired. Well, welcome to the show, Brett.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm so good. Today was kind of a crazy day, running around. So after work, I get off pretty early off of work, so I had to go to the grocery store, had to make a few errands for my friends. So now I'm here and I'm ready to film and I'm so excited.
Yay! I'm excited too. Thank you for having me.
So Brett,
super excited.
Yeah. So I've known you for a little over a year now, and you've shared parts of your story.
Yes.
And I think your story is going to fit so perfectly for this audience.
Yeah.
Girlfriend, you were homeless.
Yep. Yeah.
You had alcoholism. And now you're sitting here today as a woman of inspiration and a crazy story to share.
Yeah.
So kind of go back to where it really started, where you kind of went, oh my gosh, I have a problem, and it kind of went on a downhill spiral.
It was, I wasn't raised in an alcoholic home. And that's the misconception that people have, is that you have to be raised to be an alcoholic or a drug addict. You must have been raised in an abusive home or an alcoholic home or a home that your parents did, drugs, alcohol, whatever. I was raised in a very blue-collar, hardworking family, and neither one of my parents really drank at all. Wow. And it was until my parents were pretty strict, but it was until about 18 and I went to Colorado State University, go Rams, and I discovered drinking immediately. And what I discovered later, and I'll kind of touch into that, but even though I wasn't raised in an alcoholic, abusive home, I was raised in a very, very stable home. My dad was at every soccer game. My parents were very white picket fence on the outside. But on the inside of the home, they were very, the coping mechanisms of our family was garbage. We would slam doors and not talk about feelings. We would not speak to each other for weeks. We would walk around on eggshells all the time in our home. And so it was a very unhealthy living situation. And I didn't realize it until I got older.
So growing up, you weren't able to relay emotions and feelings to your mom or your dad.
Never.
Did you not feel, not necessarily if the word for it is safe, did you feel safe? You didn't feel safe to share those thoughts?
Absolutely. So I didn't feel safe to share. My parents were both raised in alcoholic homes, abusive homes. They never told us they loved us until the age of 19. I was 19. My sister's 6 years older.
Wow.
So she was, 25 the first time that my parents said, I love you.
Wow.
And it was in a really scary family situation. Emotions were never a part of our family. And so coping mechanisms were not learned at all growing up, at all.
Every family dynamic, as I've gotten older, I've realized every family dynamic is so different.
Right.
In how they discipline their children or lack of. So you went to college, and if I could just, kind of attest to this a little bit. Yeah. So I grew up also in a family that didn't touch alcohol, okay? Right. My parents were very good about that, so very similar to you. And then I got to college. Sorry, Mom and Dad, but secret's out. I went to college and I was exposed to alcohol. And I went to a Christian university, a Christian college, okay? Don't kid yourself. Can I be real?
Yeah.
Let's be real here. Christian schools, they're gonna drink.
Sometimes they're the craziest.
There's some of the wild people.
Yeah.
So I was exposed to drinking. And obviously, you know, my story is way different than yours in how I realized that alcohol actually, when it's abused, is not okay.
No.
So kind of go into, you know, you go to college,
Yep.
and then it was a downhill spiral.
Yes.
And
almost immediately.
how did it, go into it a little bit.
So I was living in the dorms and I made friends with all the bad kids, right? Oh, the bad kids.
Yeah.
All the people that would party and drink and the frat boys. And, you know, we were at a frat house every single night and they partied every single night. And growing up, even though I grew up in a very non-emotional home, my parents were very strict and protective. I had a 9 o'clock curfew till my senior year in high school. So it was...
Ooh.
Yeah. So it was very strict. And I was in trouble a lot in high school. But so when I got to college, it was like, woo, party. You know, I'm free. I'm out of this strict home. And I went nuts. I was academically dismissed within 2 semesters. I went to a total of probably 5 classes in 2 semesters.
Wow.
Failed out of CSU. Letter from the dean home to family saying she's not welcome back. I lived in Fort Collins for another 7 years because it's a party town.
Yeah.
And I knew I was where I was supposed to be. But you know, experimenting with alcohol, it was my everyday goal.
Wow.
Every single day it was, and I knew at 18 years old I was an alcoholic.
At 18, was it kind of this like almost high of emotion where you woke up in the morning and you went, I have to get that next drink?
Yeah. And it was always, you know, as an alcoholic, it's the obsession. So you wake up and you're like, what did I do last night? And then you wake up in the morning and it's that obsession, that craving. That, you know, when you get a craving for chocolate or something, ice cream, that when you...
Me all the time.
Yeah. Every woman knows that, right? But when you get it and you can't stop thinking about it until you put it into your body.
Yeah.
That's how being an alcoholic is one drink and then you need the next one and you need the next one. And then you drink till you pass out and then the next morning you're like, okay, when's the next one? And so you have to drink until, you know, you can't drink anymore, physically.
As in, like, would you vomit?
Vomit or pass out or...
Oh my gosh.
Fall down, hit my head like 6 times and stitches across my forehead.
Did any of your college friends or did anyone step up during this time when you were in college and said, hey, maybe we should actually tone it back?
My family, I mean, friends, everybody. And I was like, I just like to have fun. It's none of your business. Yeah.
So where did the alcohol really lead to? Did it lead to destructive relationships in men? Did it lead to destructive, you know, work ethic? I mean, you mentioned your schoolwork.
Yeah.
What other things did it lead to?
It destroyed, I mean, I had probably every single serving and bartending job in the city of Denver. I'm not kidding. I'm sorry, whoever's watching. I would drink while bartending, which is not a good idea.
Right. A lot of them do that, though, by the way.
Yeah. But not at like a certain restaurant that I worked at for a very long time. You know, 15 years, and you're not allowed to drink there, and it's a family restaurant, and I was, you know, pouring drinks, one for them, one for me. And so I thankfully worked for that company for 15 years and was never fired, but loss of jobs, tons of jobs I was fired from. My schooling, it took me 11 years to get my bachelor's degree.
But you got it.
But I got it, finally. See, even as an alcoholic, I could get it. But relationships, I mean, my family I destroyed my life. Nobody trusted me with anything. I got a DUI in 2004. I mean, you name it. I've done it.
So, fast forward a little bit, when did you become homeless then? Because I'm assuming your alcoholism, the lack of, you know, education and all of that, and your relationships led to homelessness. Right, your credit score. Good credit's important, people.
Yeah, it is. Very important. You know, when you're a good alcoholic, like I like to say.
Good alcoholic.
Yeah. You sign up, you establish your credit, right?
Yeah.
And then you take out all the credit cards, all of them.
Oh my gosh.
And you max them all out, and then you're like, gotta pay them. And then you let it go, right? Because that's what a good alcoholic does. Because we're so reliable.
Right.
And so you max out everything, and then you have a credit score of 487 again, and you have to build it up again. But that's what happened for so many years, and it was this vicious cycle. Like, I would pull myself out of it, and then I would destroy it again, and then I would pull myself out of it, and I would destroy it again. And it finally led to a point that my ex of 3 years, he was so tired of taking care of me, that he said, we're done. Like, I can't. And we were together for over 3 years, actually. And I was homeless. We owned a house together, but his name was on the deed. And I lived with friends for a little bit and stole their alcohol, and they kicked me out, and then I lost my job. And I lived with some other friends, and then finally I built back up, got my own place again, and then I drank it all away. I was to a point that I sold my furniture so I could buy alcohol, and on Facebook Marketplace. And I was laying on my living room floor, and this is kind of like the end of everything, throwing up on myself. And I made the decision. I couldn't pay my rent for the next month. I had a $400 car payment, couldn't pay it. And I made the decision right there. I would lay there and die, or I would get up and do something about it.
Wow.
And I got up.
Wow. And here you are.
Yeah.
So tell me about the recovery process then.
Yeah.
So that was the moment where you decided that it was time to change your life.
Yeah.
Did you go cold turkey? Did you go to rehab? Like, what was the process?
I went to detox, self check-in 3 times in 1 month. Whether it was attention or what it was, but my last time in detox, I asked the therapist for help, and I finally admitted I needed help. And not being raised religious at all, I got on my knees and I prayed for the first time, like, in my entire life, and it was life-changing. And the therapist gave me this list of rehabs, and the first one on the list was the Salvation Army. And I called, and it's a free program. I had Medicaid at the time, and I couldn't afford a $10,000 rehab.
Right.
And Salvation Army answered, and they said, we have beds open. And I went home, and I packed up my entire apartment, and I took my 10-year-old dog that I had had since he was a puppy to my sister's house, and I took my car to the bank and said, here, have it. I can't pay for this anymore.
Right.
And I walked into the Salvation Army, and it was a 6-month treatment program.
Wow.
I lived there for almost 10 months.
Wow.
Because I was afraid to leave.
You were actually afraid of yourself, essentially.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I was helping so many people, so many other women when I was in that house that I was afraid. I was afraid to go out on my own and do life again, because I saw how that ended before.
So you said you weren't a religious person. You didn't really grow up in a Christian home or any type of religion.
Nope.
And you said that you just decided to go on your knees and pray. Where did that come from? Was it just inside you? Did it just come out?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's so good.
And after getting on my knees, 2 months into treatment, Captain Allison Struck, and she was running the adult rehabilitation center for the Salvation Army in Denver, but she's now in California. But in one of her sermons, she said, if everything that you were doing has been working, why are you sitting here right now? And she said, why don't you give faith a chance? And that has been God, I want to cry. That has been my biggest mantra in life. Give faith a chance. Because I'm not God. She's not God. We can't do this by ourselves. And how many times have we like been in such a stressful situation or been down in the trenches and we try to pull ourselves out? We can't. We're not God. We can't do that.
And what do you have to lose too? Like, what do you have to lose in saying, all right, I need to have some faith? Because you're at the bottom. You're someone that says, I was at the bottom and I decided just to start having faith.
Yeah. Yeah.
Salvation Army. You go to the Salvation Army now, and you live there for 10 months, okay? And you really start seeing a change in yourself, inwardly and outwardly, correct? So then, what happens next?
Super great. So I was in the program for actually 29 days, and I saw this tall, dark, and handsome man walk by. I'm talking hot. And
he's very tall.
He is very tall and very brown and very attractive. You know, any alcoholic or addict will tell you when you put down the substance, you try to fill that hole in your soul with something else. A lot of alcoholics pick up whether it's sex or gambling or shopping addiction, or every alcoholic or addict, and every human being has one of these. So it's not like, I mean, most human beings have one addiction, just some are more socially acceptable than others, right? But mine has always been sex and relationships. So I see this tall, dark, and handsome man walking by, and I'm like, I'm going to marry him, is what I said.
Oh, did you actually say that?
Out loud. 29 days sober, and I've like picked my husband out of a pool of not the best people to pick from, right? They're men in rehab.
Yes.
So,
he was going through the same transition you were.
Yes, and he had just completed his 6-month program. And so saw him, and I wrote him a letter, 32 years old, and I write a 39-year-old man a letter, right? I got caught, and thank the Lord I didn't get kicked out of the program, because they could have kicked me out, but they gave me an extension and all this stuff, because it's really frowned upon to meet somebody in rehab. You're supposed
they
to
want to keep you heal
within yourself, right? But we started dating after I completed my program, and we've been married for over a year now.
Brett!
He's the best. God, every time I talk about him, I want to cry. Yes,
you are
he's
truly
awesome.
blessed.
Yes.
Where you were, growing up in a family that you felt neglected in a way. Going to college, starting to drink and finding alcoholism, essentially, to homelessness, to finding faith, having God bring you up from under the dirt and mud, to the Salvation Army, to then meeting your husband. And now it's so cool. You're working for the Salvation Army now, and you're helping other women and men that were like you.
So now I work for the Salvation Army in Colorado Springs, and I'm the marketing and PR director for El Paso County, and it's awesome, like being in the trenches with these people and saying like, it's okay. We have suicidal teens. My husband and I are youth pastors now, which praise the Lord, we get to spend with the time with these teens and these little kids that are in low income homes, that families that are stretched thin, that are abused, and we get it. We get it. And we're right there with them, telling them like, tomorrow's a new day, and preaching and ministering without preaching, because we've been there, so we know.
So if someone is listening to this right now and going, whether you're a college student and you right now are like, crap, I'm getting myself into something I know I shouldn't be. What do you tell that girl right now?
Get help before it's too late. I wouldn't change anything, and that's hard for people to hear. I wouldn't change 1 second, because it's made me the person I am today. God had a plan for me, and I ended up in the same place that he wanted me to. I just took this really squirrely path that he didn't expect. But be true to yourself and be honest with yourself, because it will ruin your life or kill you. I've just buried 2 friends in the last month.
Oh my gosh.
From alcoholism, suicide. So
these are very real issues, and you lived through it, and the Lord is using you, Brett.
I know.
I mean, you're being
powerful.
used. So thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you, guys.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. As always, be part of the conversation, be loved, and be inspired.